Hey friends, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie and today we're going to Vegas with Cirque's new Kelly Marissa collection. So this is a 6-piece limited edition collection where 4 of the polishes feature a brand new shimmergraphic formula. And as the name suggests, it is a combination of a shimmer finish with a holographic sparkle. Now, I know that might sound familiar, especially if you are familiar with Cirque's iconic shimmer formula, but that one has a much more delicate and sparse holographic sparkle. These definitely have way more, and hopefully you'll see what I mean once I do the swatches and some comparisons later on in the video. I also wanted to share the newest Do Good polish right over here that Cirque launched earlier this month. If you don't know, every so often Cirque will create a charity polish where the proceeds benefit a specific organization that the polish is inspired by. So this latest Do Good polish is called Harvest Time, and it directly supports City Harvest, which is a food equity nonprofit that works to combat the growing number of people without access to food, education, or meals. As always, I will have Cirque's website linked down below if you do want to read a little bit more about that. But for now, let's just get into the swatches. So first off, here's a look at the box for the new Do Good polish. I think it is just so adorable. But yeah, Harvest Time is a flash reflective glitter polish in a green jelly base. So since it is a jelly base, it's definitely very sheer on the first coat, but it still has a really pretty color. I feel like the green is just so bright and juicy, and you definitely get pretty even coverage for the most part on one coat, though it is still a little bit sheer. So personally, I wouldn't wear this in just one coat. I would probably just wear it in 3, like I'm going to be showing it in my swatch, but I think on 2 coats it does give a really nice sparkly and squishy look to it. So if you are a fan of jellies, especially the more translucent kinds, I feel like this works really nicely on just 2 coats. But yeah, here it is in 3, and you can see the color definitely deepens up a little bit, so it does get a little bit more intense, but it doesn't cover up the nail line anymore. You can still see right through it, so it definitely is a true jelly polish. But as you know, I'm a big fan of jellies, so I really like this one, and the flash reflective glitters are really pretty and sparkly. I love how it looks without flash, and with flash, it's not super intense like some other reflective polishes, so I love that this is a little bit more of a delicate sparkle. Now moving on to the Kelly Marissa collection, here's a quick look at the cartons that the polishes come in. They're all the same, where it's a black box with gold detailing with the little Vegas motifs. So the first polish we have is 777, and this one is described as a red speckled polish featuring gold flakies. So I personally would just call this a traditional micro flake kind of formula because it just has these small gold flakies, and I think there is a subtle gold shimmer in there as well. But the red jelly base in this one had such a great formula. It is so even on the first coat alone that I was honestly pretty impressed. Some of Cirque's jellies can be a little bit streaky and not really look the best in one coat, but this one definitely had a lovely formula. So if you wanted, I guess you could wear it on one coat or just layer it over another red shade if you didn't want to do 2 coats of this one. But doing a second coat builds up the color and also layers all of those flakies even more. So it just has a really beautiful dimensional look to it. And I don't know about you, but this one kind of gives me Christmas or holiday vibes, maybe even Lunar New Year. Next up we have Golden Nights, and this one is a black speckled polish featuring gold flakies. So this is basically the black version of the last polish, and I really enjoyed this one. It immediately reminded me of New Year's Eve and just like fancy black tie events. So I really enjoyed this one. This one also had another beautiful formula, but maybe I still wouldn't wear this on one coat because it is a little bit light in some spots, but it gave really great coverage, more so than I was expecting for the first coat. But yeah, this one definitely was fully opaque in 2 coats because it's a black jelly base, so the color is deep enough that it's going to cover up any nail line. And I just love how well those gold flakies stood out in the black base. Like, there's just so much contrast there. It just looks like you're wearing a gold flaky topper. Now getting into the new finishes, the first one we have is Venetian Sky, and this one is a blurple shimmer graphic with a pink to gold to green color shifting aurora shimmer and that scattered holographic effect. So even though this one is described as a blurple, I didn't really see the blue in it. This one definitely just picked up very purple to me. It could have just been the lighting that I was looking at it. I didn't have a chance to see this in indirect lighting or anything else, so maybe it does lean a little bit more blue or indigo, but to me, this reads very much like a true bright purple, and I think it's such a pretty shade. Normally, I don't gravitate towards these kinds of purples, especially with that pink shimmer, but I think this had such a beautiful combination of colors, and it was just so shifty and shimmery and just so pretty. I feel like it looked like a jewel. So here I'm adjusting the lighting so you can see the range of the shimmer. Personally, I didn't see the gold to green color shift that was in the description. To me, it just looked a little bit more fiery, like an orange to reddish shimmer, which I still really loved because it reminded me of a sunset. Next up, we have All In, and this one is a lime green shimmer graphic with a red to orange to gold color shifting aurora shimmer and the same scattered holographic effect. So this one was definitely a surprise favorite for me because I just wasn't expecting to really love this one at first. It sort of reminded me of Groove Thing from the Cosmic Discotheque collection last year, and as you probably know, I'm just not the biggest fan of those greens, but this one is definitely a very bright and juicy lime green shade. I feel like it almost reminds me of a candy apple or something. I think it's just so pretty. So this one definitely is more on the sheer side, like a truer jelly kind of formula. So on 2 coats, you can still make out my nail line a decent amount. I think for the most part, you can wear this in 2 coats, like some other Cirque shimmers, for example, but I ended up doing a 3rd coat for this one, and it built up really nicely. I wouldn't say it's 100% opaque, but definitely covers up enough nail line that I wouldn't do another coat. But yeah, I think this one looks so good. It's just so bright and sparkly, and I think the shimmer is really pretty too. It has more of that gold head on, but you can still see some of that orange and red right under the direct light source. So here it is under flash, where you can also see that it's out of focus to show off that holographic sparkle, because again, these are shimmer graphics, so that holographic sparkle is definitely there. The next shade we have is Ethel, and this one is a forest green shimmer graphic with a red to gold to green color shifting aurora shimmer and that same scattered holographic effect. So again, this one has more of that jelly kind of formula where you can see just how sheer it is on the first coat, but it's still very even coverage. You get a ton of shimmer and holographic sparkle, so it does cover up pretty well. I guess if you wanted to wear this in one coat, you probably could, but I am building it up in 2, and I feel like it is opaque enough for me to wear it on 2 coats because it is a slightly deeper shade, so you don't really make out my nail line unless it's like in certain extreme angles of lighting. But yeah, this one had a really pretty vibrant green base to it. I think the shimmer is a nice contrast. This one just gives me more of those holiday vibes again. And here it is with the adjusted lighting, so you can see more of that color shift. I feel like there's a little bit of copper in there before going all the way to gold or green. So definitely a really nice range of shades. And rounding out the collection, we have Flaminglow, and this one is described as a pink shimmer graphic with a gold to green to blue color shifting aurora shimmer and that same scattered hollow effect. So no surprise, this was my top favorite from this collection. I just immediately fell in love with this shade. I think it's so beautiful. It has such an amazing formula where you can see just on one coat alone, it is almost perfect without it being fully opaque. By perfect, I just mean it looks so good as far as its even coverage and the shimmer and sparkle payoff that you get, but you can still make out your nail line. So I did end up doing a second coat just to cover that up a little bit more. This is another one that I wouldn't call 100% opaque on 2 coats because again, it is a little bit lighter, so in certain angles you'll make out some nail line, but there is enough shimmer that it covers it up and distracts from that. So here it is with the adjusted lighting. I was really struggling to get it on camera, but I could tell in person how it shifts to that green and even blue color. I feel like it's a lot more noticeable here in the bottle. I feel like it looks like a rainbow of the shimmer shades. It is just so pretty. I love this one. The only thing is that I would just describe this more as a peach instead of a pink. And here is the collection all together, so you can see the color story. I really love the first 2 because they just remind me of your classic playing cards, but the shimmer graphics are also such a beautiful finish. And even though there's 2 greens, they're definitely very different. And lastly, we have some new ready-to-wear nail art stickers. So here they are, so cute. Obviously, we have more of these Vegas motifs in a few different colors, mainly black and white, but there are some gold and red metallic pops, as well as some holographic ones. So a little simple, but still flashy. So moving on to comparisons, I'm obviously starting with 777 and showing it next to ILNP's Ariel from the most recent Under the Sea collection. On paper, these definitely sound like they would be dupes, but they do look very different on the nail. The main difference is the color, where Ariel is more of that bright cherry red, but I feel like the gold flakies don't stand out as much either. In a similar vein, I'm also showing it next to Mooncat's Shroomdom from the Folktale collection a few months ago. This one again has more of a bright cherry red jelly base, but I would say that the flakies are a little bit more similar, where they stand out more than they did in Ariel, for example, but still not quite as much as they do in 777. So definitely not dupes if you happen to have either of these 2 shades, but it did make me curious about just trying to recreate 777. So I'm going to be trying that with Cirque's Lucky Jelly, which came out earlier this year. Even though it's a bit lighter, it's still a true red kind of jelly polish, and I figured that I can sandwich it with Cirque's Sun-Kissed, which is their gold flaky topper in a clear base. So I thought that these flakies were definitely very similar. So here is my little sandwich. Well, I guess it's not really a sandwich. I just did 2 coats of Sun-Kissed over 2 coats of Lucky Jelly, and I feel like this looks identical. So if you do happen to have these 2 Cirque shades, you can easily recreate this polish. Since I don't have any comparisons for Golden Nights, I figured I can try to recreate that polish as well with NSFW Jelly from Cirque and Sun-Kissed. So here is that combination. I had to do 3 coats of NSFW Jelly because it's a little bit lighter, and I feel like you can definitely tell that on the nail. It's not quite as dark as Golden Nights. So I would say maybe to just layer Sun-Kissed over a black cream and then maybe NSFW on top of that, and that would probably get you a closer dupe. Next, for Venetian Sky, I wanted to see this next to Heart of Glass from the Cosmic Discotheque collection. Obviously, these are not dupes because the shimmer head-on is totally different, where Heart of Glass is blue and Venetian Sky is pink, but they still have a somewhat similar vibe where they're like cousins. And here it is next to Spinel, which is from Cirque's Facets line, which is like a jelly base filled with these micro silver flakies that are holographic. So these are totally different finishes. I just wanted to see color-wise because it's the closest that I had to Venetian Sky. Obviously, I just don't have anything quite like that shade in my collection. So this is just kind of a Cirque purple comparison. I think in certain angles, Heart of Glass and Venetian Sky might look like they have a similar base color, but they're not dupes. Next up for All In, I of course had to show this next to Harvest Time, which is the Do Good polish from earlier this month. This obviously has a different finish entirely, and it's slightly deeper color-wise. But something that I thought was a little bit more similar was Peridot, which is also from the Facets line. This looks really similar in the bottle. It just is missing a shimmer, but on the nail, they look so different. Peridot actually dries down a lot darker, and you can see just how bright and more jelly All In is. And again, it has that shimmer and holographic sparkle as well. So yeah, totally different shades. And lastly, here it is next to Lynx, which is from the Heavenly Bodies collection earlier this year. This one looks super similar in the bottle, especially because they have that same orangey kind of shimmer head on, but Lynx actually is a lot darker on the nail, where it's almost like a mossy or olivey green kind of color. Lynx is also a magnetic, but because it has the same shimmer, I just wanted to show how these look side by side. And lastly, for Flaminglow, we obviously have to compare it next to Cirque's Fandango, which is another one of my absolute favorite shades from Cirque. That one is a peachy, shimmery sheer, so it's really similar. It's just missing more of that holographic sparkle that Flaminglow has, because again, that one is the new shimmergraphic formula. So on the nail, they definitely are really close. You can obviously tell there's more of that shimmergraphic sparkle going on in Flaminglow, and it is a little bit darker. I don't know if I would call it a pink necessarily. It still feels very peachy to me, but yeah, these are definitely really similar. So that wraps up my swatches and comparisons for Cirque's new Kelly Marissa collection and their newest Do Good polish, Harvest Time. So as always, I would love to know what your thoughts are on these releases, especially for the new formula, that shimmergraphic formula, because I obviously think it's so stunning. I am already a huge fan of Cirque's regular shimmer formula that again has more of a delicate, dainty kind of hollow sparkle. So for these to have more of a true in-your-face scattered hollow finish, I just love how eye-catching and sparkly they are. I think they're just so pretty, and I really hope that we get more of this formula from Cirque, but ideally in permanent shades, because as a reminder, these are limited edition. So I will have Cirque's website down below if you do want to pick these up, and as a reminder, I am an affiliate with Cirque, so you can use my code PolishedYogi to get 10% off. I do want to apologize again though for not being able to show off the holographic sparkle to its fullest effect. Unfortunately, it's just been very rainy and cloudy where I am, so I just haven't had a nice day of full sun to do these swatches and share some sunlight clips with you, but hopefully you got an idea of how sparkly and hollow they actually are when I showed that out of focus clip. So yeah, they're still really pretty. And as far as my thoughts just on the lineup, obviously they're Vegas inspired and not really tied to any season, but for whatever reason, this color palette just reminds me of late winter, like holiday vibes. I guess because some of them remind me of like New Year's Eve shades, and so they're shades that I would wear for like holiday parties or something. So I'm not really gonna be drawn to some of these colors like right now, probably with the exception of Flaminglow and All In, because they're just the brightest shades. But yeah, they're still really fun, super sparkly, and just great formulas overall. So I just enjoyed working with these. You'll have to let me know any and all thoughts that you have down below so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.